A business entity in itself is a unit made up of several units. We all know that a substantial business can't be run alone. It requires support and integration of elements like employees, customers, creditors, debtors, society, and the government to run smoothly. All these elements which belong to a larger unit, society, are the stakeholders of a business. At the same point, we all know that in development of society, business has a very important role to play. So it becomes very important for us to understand the relationship between business and its stakeholders. This lesson explores the issues related with this topic and enlightens us on the same. It follows from the previous slide that after studying this lesson, we would be able to understand the coexistence of business and society, examine business organization as systems, know about stakeholder typologies and their significance in business, analyze the role of communication in stakeholder management, understand the need for stakeholder contribution in decision making, and examine the need for effective communication in CSR initiatives. Business forms one of the major subsystems of the society, which is dependent on the society for sustaining itself. For instance, it gets manpower, raw material, financial and other resources from the society. It also needs the larger society to facilitate the exchange of its financial products and services. In return, businesses help in contributing to the GDP of the nation, provide employment, aid in infrastructure development, and improve the quality of life of the people. This illustrates that businesses and society are highly interdependent. Positive and negative business activities impact society, and the action by governments and other subsystems in society continuously affect businesses. Therefore, an understanding of the organization's key relationship with its environment and assessment of the impact of managerial decisions on the larger society will assist managers to manage these interdependencies. Now let us understand how business organizations play their role as systems. The system theory helps managers to look at organization from a broader perspective. In the past, managers typically took one part of the organization and focused their attention on that, and subsequently moved their attention to another part. In this, organizations could have wonderful departments that operated well by themselves, but did not integrate well together. Consequently, the organization suffered as a whole. Then came the general systems theory. This theory highlights that all organizations are open and interact with their external environment. The theory emphasizes the ways in which organized system, human and non-human, respond in an adaptive way to cope with significant changes in their external environments, so as to maintain their basic structure intact. As applied to business management discipline, the systems concept implies that business firms are embedded in a broader social structure with which they constantly interact. Systems theory models of decision-making in human groups and organizations emphasize their interaction with outside actors and organizations, and concentrate on identifying the particular element in the environment of the group or organization that significantly affect the outcome of decision-making. In contemporary society, more managers are beginning to recognize the existence of the various parts of the organization, and in particular, the interrelation of the parts. Managers maintain perspective by focusing on outcomes they want from their organization. They focus on structure that provoke behavior that determine events, rather than reacting to events as was the practice in the past. A business firm's relationship with its stakeholder depends upon its interface. There are two types of stakeholders, that is, primary and secondary stakeholders. Primary social stakeholders have a direct stake in the organization and its success, and therefore are influential. Secondary social stakeholders may be extremely influential, especially in affecting reputation and public standing, but their stake in the organization is more representational than direct. Over the time, develop the theory of stakeholder identification and salience based upon stakeholders' possession of one or more of the three attributes: power, legitimacy, and urgency. The stakeholder classes resulting from possessing the attributes are latent stakeholders, expectant stakeholders, definitive stakeholders, and non-stakeholders. Latent stakeholders possess only one of the three attributes and thus have low salience. Managers may not recognize their existence or may do nothing about their stakeholders. Latent stakeholders are not likely to give any attention to the firm. The latent stakeholders can be classified into dormant, discretionary, and demanding. Dormant stakeholders possess the power to impose their will on the firm, but as they lack a legitimate or an urgent claim, their power is not exercised. Discretionary stakeholders possess legitimacy but no power or urgency. The third type of latent stakeholders is demanding and possesses the urgency attribute. The stakeholders who show 2 out of the 3 of the characteristics are defined as expectant stakeholders. Again, they may also be of 3 types, namely dormant, discretionary, and demanding. Since dormant stakeholders have little or no interaction with the firm but may become quite salient, managers do not ignore dormant stakeholders. Because of the absence of power and urgency with the discretionary stakeholders, managers are not under any pressure to engage in a relationship with them, although they may choose to do so. Coming down to demanding stakeholders, since they lack power or legitimacy, they are merely troublesome, but not dangerous, and warrant only passing management attention. Definitive stakeholders are those that possess all the 3 attributes. They have strong rights and have the power to even vote to replace management. Then, there are non-stakeholders, who can be rather defined as individuals or entities possessing none of the attributes. The relationship among all the different types of stakeholders is depicted through the figure shown here. You can see how all the stakeholders are interrelated. Also, a point to be noted is that non-stakeholders are kept out of this interplay, obviously since they don't possess any of the 3 attributes. Now, since there are so many various types of stakeholders in an organization, they must also be taken care of very well. The main challenges for management remain to be assessing the key stakeholders, their needs and concerns, designing an effective engagement program on strategy and operations, then deciding how to measure and communicate performance, having a mechanism to properly collect and respond to stakeholder views, providing information on the real performance of the firm, developing and communicating the organizational values through the engagement process, restoring and enhancing reputation when it is damaged, finding a cost-effective approach to monitor and report performance, ensuring that data sources are reliable and information provided to stakeholders is consistent and accurate, deciding how to get assurance from the data used, and developing a relationship with strategic stakeholders based on commitment and accountability. With increasing frequency, corporations are facing demand from the stakeholders, be it investors, regulators, customers, employees, suppliers, and public are focused on corporate governance and business ethics, environmental performance, workplace health and safety, human rights, impact on communities, and reporting transparency. But as a matter of fact, often the aims and objectives of stakeholders are not the same as shareholders, and that is why both of them come into conflict. The main reason behind this conflict is often shareholders wanting short-term profits, while the other stakeholders being desirous to cost money and reduce profit. The owners in such cases have to balance their own wishes against those of other stakeholders or risk losing their ability to generate future profits. Businesses today face several major challenges. They are increasingly facing a rise in public expectations, partly because of the decline of the state and partly because of the erosion of common framework for dialogue between businesses, which are global, and communities that remain local. Product markets are also affected because of the changes in consumer demands as individual values and ethical consideration are given market expression. It also affects business reputation in terms of boycotts or corruption scandals. Moreover, shortage of skilled resources and employee concerns for participation, greater transparencies and ethical behavior affects the internal labor market of companies, as there are important powerful dynamic elements within the organization, which force them to change. Capital markets also get affected through investors' preference and new type of performance rating, and accounting and reconciliation of business strategies and profit consideration. As markets and businesses have gone global, the long-term business growth can no longer be separated from the well-being of societies abroad, and from the way in which we deal with the problems and challenges that transcend national boundaries. Thus, building a culture of responsibilities and becoming more actively engaged in finding solutions to broader societal challenges is one way forward. Now let us check our progress by finding if the sentences given here are right or wrong. Business is one of the major subsystems of the society. Business is one of the major subsystems of the society. Only negative activities of a business impact the society. Only negative activities of a business impact the society. The objectives of shareholders and other stakeholders are conflicting. The objectives of shareholders and other stakeholders are conflicting. Stakeholder theory states that shareholders' profit maximization is the prime motive of the business. Stakeholders theory states that shareholders' profit maximization is the prime motive of the business. Shareholders have vested interest in the company but do not own it. Shareholders have vested interest in the company but do not own it. Having a look at answers will let us know if we were right or not. Business is one of the major subsystems of the society. That was easy, it's right. Next, only negative activities of a business impact the society. Again an easy one. That is wrong. Discretionary stakeholders have legitimacy but no power. Remember, discretionary stakeholders? This statement is right. Stakeholder theories that shareholders' profit maximization is the prime motive of the business. That is wrong. Shareholders have vested interest in the company but do not own it. Again wrong. In the end, let us give a brief revision to what we have studied in this lesson. Business is to maintain and organize collective productivity to achieve a set of productive and creative goals. Business activities impact the social environment. Systems theory helps managers to look at organization from a broader perspective. Shareholders own shares in the company, so they own a part of the company. But stakeholders have interest in the company but do not own it. Stakeholders can be divided into primary stakeholders and secondary stakeholders. Thank you.